Okay, Oscar, we're going live now.
Okay.
Okay, we are live. We have 32 viewers waiting at this stage, Oscar. So thank you very much for joining
Okay.
us. Oscar, I'm not sure, is this your first YouTube live interview?
Yes, it is.
It is, okay.
Yeah.
So,
Yes. Good
thanks.
evening, everybody.
Yes, thanks everyone for coming on. Yes, if you can just sit a bit further back, there we go. Everyone can see your face. Um, well, I'm really looking forward to this interview for one simple reason. I know you. You support the cause for us to be free. You've hosted one of my meetings at your facilities, and I won't go into any detail with regards to where it was or anything like that. But I really want to thank you, first of all, for making your venue available for our meeting in the past. And thank you for everything that you've done for trying to help to free this country. Oscar, you're a wonderful person. I love your family. You have a wonderful family. So tell me a bit about yourself.
Same back to you, Des. Thank you very much. Okay, so I am a commercial diver. I work in the oil and gas industry,
Mm-hmm.
and I traveled for the last 5 years. I've been traveling from India to India to go to work. And so this year is different. This year's got COVID all over the place. So
Yes.
we've gone through a year of lockdowns, and it's not a pleasant thing traveling anymore, especially if you are one of the people that have woken up to what's going on.
Yes.
So I left for work at the end of February, and I came back on the 30th of May. So I did a 3-month trip, and it was the trips are longer now as well because of the travel restrictions. So
Yes. Maybe just
you've
explain
got
that
to
to us so people can
you got to
understand what you have to go through.
right. So you normally we do about a 40-day trip. So you'll go to work, and you'll do 40 days, and you come back home again, and then you'll spend a couple of weeks at home, and you go back to work again. Now the chaps are doing some of the chaps are doing 7 months there because of the travel restrictions. A lot of them Canadian, British, some American, and so on. So
Yeah.
very difficult for them to travel around. So they just stay at work, and it works tougher now. It's more difficult.
Yes.
You need your break. But anyway, so I did my break. I did my trip. We spend 28 days inside a chamber, and it's quite an extreme job. It's so, and of course we breathing's a big issue for us.
Yes. That's all about breathing, isn't it?
Yes, everything's about breathing on this job. So your CO2 levels, and you got to watch all those things. And we really enjoy our open air and our unobstructed airways when we get out of
I
this
can imagine.
diving system, this chamber. So the last thing you want to do is wear a mask. The last thing, absolute last thing. So now, and of course, you got these tests that you have to go through when you travel. So these PCR tests.
Okay, where do you go
and that's
do
another
this
thing that
test and how,
I don't.
Where do you go and do this test, and how did you experience it?
Okay, so when you're in India, the company organizes it for you, and there's a chap that comes around to the hotel room and takes the swab. So I refuse the nasal swab. I allow them to swab the back of my throat. It's less invasive, and I can gargle and whatever I need to do afterwards because I'm quite suspicious of what it is, what's on the end of these swabs. So and so you've got to refuse these nasal swabs, and they don't like that. But I've managed to get through with it. They accept it, and it's always negative. It's negative whenever they want it to be, and it's positive whenever they want it to be. Anyway, so then that's a 3-day wait. So you wait in the hotel room, get your swab, get your negative test, jump on the plane, and this mask. Say again.
Okay, but if you could just tell us what is it like to actually experience a test for the people that haven't had it done, because there's many people watching now that haven't experienced this.
Okay, so it's just a Q-tip at the back of the throat, but the nasal swabs it's a very long Q-tip with a little furry bit on the end of it, and it's inserted right to the back of the nose, the nasal passageway, and then it's rubbed up there. I've never allowed it to be done to me, but just about everybody does. I've done a lot of reading up on it, so I choose not to have it. Yeah, well, and when they come and they ask me to do the nasal.
It's best not to talk about the details of that now.
Yes.
Did you have to spend a period in quarantine at all?
Yes. Okay. So going to work, it was 2 weeks in the hotel, a very small hotel room, and you're not allowed out the hotel room at all. It's okay for a couple of days, but after, a week, it's enough. You want to get out of that hotel room, and you can't. You just got to sit there and do what you spend the time. So and then of course you go to offshore. So you get a crew boat and you go out to the oil field, and you're on a vessel where you die from.
Yes.
So going there is an ordeal. Coming back, it's unpleasant. Anyway, so
you actually fed up. It's not an easy thing.
Not at all. It was quite pleasant. You'd get shore from your trip, and within that same day you'd be on a plane and you'd be home. Just normal air travel, international air travel was great. Now it's a whole rigmarole. The security's heightened. The queues are longer. There's less staff there. You've got to get there 4 hours before. It used to be 2 hours before. Everything's a lot more complicated. So now you move through the airport. We're at the airport. Get onto the plane. I always put the mask below my nose. You've got to, otherwise they just won't let you into these places, and you've got to get home. So I always just put it under my nose and leave my nose free so I can breathe freely. My exhaled air goes out. It doesn't get rebreathed in.
Yes.
And I was not. Nobody stopped me in Mumbai at the airport with this mask under my nose at all. It was fine. And getting on the plane was fine as well. It was Qatar Airways. Flying to Doha was fine. Nobody asked me to put my mask on.
No, but you did wear your mask. You did wear your mask, right?
Yes, of course you wear it, but under your nose.
Yes.
So
you did have your mask on.
Yes, and all the way you have to. They're constantly asking you to put it on if you don't wear it.
Yes.
So then in Doha, you have to. There was a 15-hour layover there. You got your mask on the whole time. Then jumping on a plane again to go to Johannesburg, same story, mask on. So it was like 36 hours of wearing a mask, and I got to Johannesburg. It's enough. You've had enough. You just want to get home. Yeah. And I boarded a plane to go to George. Same story, mask just under the nose. And as I walked past the air hostess getting onto the plane, going to George from Johannesburg, the air hostess asked me to put it over my nose. I ignored this. I carried on walking, and I found my seat. I sat down in my seat, and we took off, and then they do their rounds just after takeoff. And the lady came up to me and asked me to put the mask on over my nose, and just had enough at that point. And I said to her, "No, I won't. I won't do that. I don't want to breathe my own air." And I wasn't going to a long story to explain to her why the plane was full, and I didn't want to cause a scene at all. So, she didn't like it, and she went to go and tell the captain. And she returned with a letter, and she read the letter out to me from the captain, and it was warning me that I had to put my mask on, and if I didn't do it, this, and that would happen to me. I'd be arrested, I'd be escorted off the plane, and so on, and I'd face up to 30 years of imprisonment at the end. And I said to her, "Are you finished?" And she said, "Yes." And I said, "Thank you very much." And she walked away. They then came back and said to me, "If I don't put my mask on over my nose, they'll turn the plane around." Well, that was the captain that said that. It was a message he sent back. And I said, "Well, the captain has to do what he has to do." And we carried on flying. Just before landing.
Can I just stop you?
Just before
can I just ask you a question
Yes.
quickly? At this stage, just for everyone to be clear, you were still wearing the mask. She was just asking you to put it over your nose as well.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I was hoping that she just sort of let it slip and let it be, but it turned out to be a big thing. And then, at one point, both of the air hostesses were right next to my seat, asking me to put my mask on, telling me to put my mask on. And I said no. And at that point, I was just not going to cooperate with them at all. I just didn't feel like it. It had already gone past that stage where I was willing to cooperate with them.
And the captain
threatened just
to
before
actually turn the
we
plane
started
around.
Yes. Well, she came back with a message saying that if I didn't put the mask on over my nose, he's going to turn the plane around. So I told her, well, the captain has to do what he has to do then, in that case.
That's quite a severe
flying.
action. I mean, what went through your mind at that point?
Well, this is the thing. You see, so it's quite an emotional situation. So your heart beats, you got adrenaline running through your veins.
Yeah.
It's not a pleasant situation. I just kept my eyes closed.
Yeah.
The plane was full, probably, I don't know, maybe about 100 people. So it's embarrassing. It's not nice, but something just said to me, just stick to your guns,
Yeah.
and that's the end of it. So I did, and it played out. And so just before we started the descent, the captain always comes on and he says, well, the temperature's 18 degrees, it's nice weather, and we're starting our descent. Thank you very much for all your support, all the customers. And I just want to inform everybody that one of our customers refuses to wear his mask.
Did he actually say that,
which
or
I had
refused to wear it correctly?
No, he said refuses to wear the mask.
Well,
which I had it on halfway.
Which isn't true.
It wasn't true. No, absolutely wasn't true. So, and he refuses to wear his mask, and as a result, we are asking you to please all stay on board until the police have arrived and done their investigation and escorted this passenger off the plane, and then you may all leave. So it wasn't very pleasant to hear that, but and so of course the heartbeat starts beating faster again, and now you're thinking of the consequences. My wife was there with my two boys waiting for me, and anyway, we landed. Took about 5 minutes for the police to get on board. So they came to my seat with
waiting.
They
were probably waiting at the airport for the plane if they got on board that fast.
Yeah, he radioed ahead, obviously. Yeah.
Yes.
To the yeah, and so yeah, and they came on. It was a very pleasant policeman police, a lady and a gentleman,
Okay.
and they came to my seat and they saw me with a mask on. I could see their surprise. It was a little bit awkward for them as well because the full plane. And so they asked me what my name was. I told them what my name was, and at that point, one of the passengers behind me, 2 seats behind me, started raising his voice and telling everybody, how selfish I was, and what a danger I was, not wearing my mask and so on, and so the lady said to me, "Please, you need to hurry up and get your bag." So I did, and yeah, one police officer in front, one police officer behind, and they escorted me off the plane, through the building into a little office at the George Airport, and it was great to get off the plane.
I can imagine.
Yeah, that was great to get away from all those people.
So you couldn't see your family straight away, of course.
No. They're not allowed into the airport building anyway with these new restrictions. So they had to wait out in the car park anyway.
Okay.
And because they were waiting for me, and you do get quite worried, a little bit panicky,
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen now. So I asked the lady, the police officer, if she wouldn't consider just letting me off with a warning, seeing that I was arrested. So she said not to worry. They're just going to write out a fine for me of 1,000 rand, and then I can be off. So which is what they did, and there was a airport company officer there witnessing the whole thing, and that was it really. Off I went. My family was waiting outside. I telephoned my wife to tell her what was happening. The police cars were outside the airport building as well. They were obviously called in from George.
Did you sign acceptance of guilt?
I did sign the piece of paper that's got the fine on it.
Yeah.
And right at the bottom it says that if you sign it, it is admission of guilt, but there's a fine to pay, which is also admission of guilt. So at the time, I just, you haven't got your wits about you properly. You just want to get out of there, and you don't quite realize what's going on in fully. So I didn't really read it properly, but I did read it later on, and I see that it was an admission of guilt. But I am going to go to. I'm not paying the fine, and I will be seeing the magistrate on the 1st of July.
The 1st of July. Now, I really want to organize, Oscar, for all our supporters in the area. Do you know which magistrate court this will be in? Yeah,
George, top of York Street in George, on the 1st of July.
Okay, so I want to organize for all our supporters in the Garden Route area to go and support you at the court on that day. Whether they will be allowed inside, I have no idea, but they can be outside to support you. And we're going to arrange that for you, because I think it's important that people show their support for the fact that you were wearing a mask. You just came out of decompression after being in decompression for 3 days, and you want to breathe clean air. You don't want to breathe through a mask after that, because your body was breathing in a combination of gases. It wasn't breathing normal air underwater, correct?
Yes, that's right. That's right. It's helium and oxygen, but it's also you're living in an atmosphere that gets the atmosphere gets filtered and scrubbed continuously. It's not the open atmosphere of the Earth. Yes. It's a contained environment, and the gases it's recycled gases all the time.
Yeah.
So
this is important to you to breathe clean air.
What's important for everybody to breathe clean air, but it's more acute for someone like myself.
Yes.
So that's it. really.
So Oscar, just to recap, you came back from a job. You took an international flight to Joburg. Then you took a local flight from Joburg to George. On all the other flights, no one had any issue with you. Is that correct?
Never stopped once to ask me to put it on over my nose. No, just okay. Kept it on my mouth.
And I do the same, and I've never had someone ask me to put it over my nose either, anywhere in this country. So, the regulations say clearly that you need to wear your mask. The regulation does not stipulate how the mask is to be worn. I find that interesting.
Yeah. So I've read, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. There's just so many inconsistencies with this whole mask wearing with everything at the moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's very difficult to I don't know.
I'm really sorry that you had to experience this, Oscar, because I know you. I know you're a person of good intent. You're a man of principle, and you want this country to succeed. I mean, I see you as a patriot, and I want the fellow patriots in this country to go and support you at court. And I believe that the magistrate will relinquish this fine, because actually, I would love to see the forms that was actually issued to you, what it actually said on there. Failing to wear your mask or failing to wear your mask correctly. I mean, what law was actually violated to receive a fine? And as far as I know, your fine is actually quite small. So I think the police didn't think of it in the same way they did with other people. I've seen a fine of 3,000 Rand for someone not wearing their mask. So they obviously considered the fact that you were wearing a mask.
Yes, it was. On the fine paper, unfortunately, it says that I wasn't wearing a mask. And so that'll be something I'll have to take up with the police officers at the time, and the magistrate. But there was plenty of witnesses.
Yes. Yeah. I think that is important. Now, what else would you want to say to the people of South Africa, without going into the World Health Organization and COVID, just with regards to freedom? You know how you feel about your freedom, and what actually happened to you on this flight? Because there was an air hostess. She wasn't an enforcement officer. It was a company, right?
That's right. They really out to push a point far beyond what they should be allowed to do. It's important, I think, that everybody does their homework on masks. Okay. And mask wearing. And inform yourself. And to be able to breathe freely and not to have to rebreathe your own air, which then increases in your CO2 levels go up, which then also increases the acidity in your mouth and your lungs. Yes. So, and there are many, many other reasons. So I had my reasons, and I'll stick to them. That's my freedom. Yeah. That's my. It's your right to breathe clean, free, unobstructed air.
Yes. And it looked like around the.
It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Around the world, I see there's a lot of action happening. There's many reports coming out, even some states in the US that have removed the making of mask wearing compulsory. And I find it interesting what is happening around the world and how legislators are starting to see evidence from scientists like the World Health Organization are saying that there is no evidence that children actually can effectively wear masks, and they say that it can psychologically damage them, which I find interesting because that is children under the age of 5. But why does the psychological damage stop at age 5? These are questions that we do have to ask. What about a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old?
Exactly. It's just as bad. How do they know? How can they make these determinations when they're not that age themselves?
Yeah.
They never had to wear masks at that age when they were young.
Yeah.
So they don't have any experience or reference point there, really.
Just to make clear, this whole incident happened because of an airline trying to enforce something. So it was an airline trying to enforce something. It was an air hostess that complained that you didn't wear the mask over your nose. There was no law enforcement officer on the plane to ask you to do anything.
No. I was quietly, discreetly sitting there. There was no antagonism in any way. I just said no. That was it. Finished. I'm not going to.
And no one around you
very politely
complained. Yeah. No one around you complained directly at you for not putting the mask over your nose because you were wearing it.
Not at all. Everybody was dead quiet. Just as I left, as I was about to leave, a gentleman 2 seats behind started with these anger issues.
But I suppose
really
that's because of the inconvenience. I suppose it's because of the inconvenience of them having to wait now for you to be escorted off the plane. But I think you were escorted.
That's right.
I don't think you were arrested at all because you were wearing a mask. They just escorted you off the plane and issued you with a fine.
That's all it was. It wasn't an arrest, as I see it. But I was warned that I would be arrested, and so when they did come, I was under the impression that I was under arrest, and that when they took me to the office, they'd then read me whatever, charge me with whatever it was, and then put me in the van, and off I'd be going to jail, and then appear in court on the Monday, which was a Sunday. I arrived on the Sunday. So I would have only spent one night in jail. But and at that point, when I was thinking that, I thought to myself, well, let me just see if she wouldn't mind giving me a warning instead. And then she came with this thing. Well, we're just going to fine you. So,
well, that.
So I was quite relieved at that point.
I think that was their way of saying maybe this should just be resolved in court. And I think they really let you off the hook, considering what I've seen with other people, because you were wearing your mask. But the fact that the captain would say that he threatened to turn the plane around, that is quite something.
Yeah.
And you decided to just
and there was
stand your ground.
Yeah, it was an hour into the flight. So I did have some cognitive thought that was going on. And I thought, well, he's not going to turn it around. So I'll just keep saying no. And that's it, you know. It's at some point it's enough's enough, you know, and you say no. It's almost like I said to you. It's almost as if it's not you doing it, but you're doing it, and you just know that it's just the right thing to do. Although it was, you know, you've got to choose your fight. That wasn't a very good fight to choose, but I had my wife and my children were waiting for me at the airport, but sometimes you just do it. I don't know what it is.
You know, sometimes you said that you got a feeling in that moment that this is what you need to do. It's happened many times in my life. It's brought me to where I am now. So I think sometimes it's just something that we need to follow. That voice telling you to do something in that moment. And if you don't act, you'll never know what good can come from it. And I believe this interview, and I really want to thank you, a lot of good will come from this. And it's interesting that this has not made the media, considering what has happened with other events. And maybe it's an embarrassment for them more than anything else.
Exactly. I don't know how it's going to turn out. I'm definitely always a very positive person, and I'm sure it's going to be absolutely fine. But something else that I've noticed in this last year is that, you know, everybody's too scared to not wear a mask because they don't want get shouted at or reprimanded or called out or asked to put the mask on because they'll feel embarrassed if somebody's watching, looking at the scene. We have to go there now. We're getting pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed and pushed, and people are just letting themselves be pushed around. And the more they get pushed around, the more they're going to push us. So at some point, we've got to stop and say enough's enough.
Yeah.
And so it's how I found my experience with this whole thing. In the beginning, you walk into a shop without a mask and you get asked to put your mask on. And then I'll say, and I'll walk out. You the heart rate goes up a little bit. You get angry. Your emotions are stirred. But the more you do it, the fitter you get at it, the better you get at it, and the easier it becomes. And you can also talk to the people and say, and ask them a couple of questions, why, and so on and so on. Push it. We have to go there. We've got to do this. We've got to exercise this part of our resistance.
And I just want to make clear that this is against the government regulations, because the World Health Organization, I'm not sure if you know, they've actually said that they're leaving it up to the government's health organizations and health bodies to decide what they want to do with regards to masks. So the World Health Organizations, they are not compelling countries, governments to tell their people to wear masks at all anymore, based on a lot of research that's come through. So this fight we're taking to our government, and you did not go and not wear a mask. You actually did wear one. And so I don't think that they actually have a case at all. And I think you're right that we need to question continuously. And it's not okay for anyone to think that you can't question what the government puts into legislation. There's judges in our high courts that have made statements against what our government has done. How they patrol the beaches, for instance, with automatic machine guns. Judge Norman Davis said, how is this okay? And this is in the High Court of the country.
Yeah.
So we do have to question things.
It's out of hand. It's gotten. Yeah. It's up to us. We're the only ones that are gonna put a stop to it, I suppose. By not complying to all these ridiculous measures. It's crazy. It's really crazy. So I hope this brings a bit of courage to some people, I suppose.
I think courage is necessary
to start going out there. Yeah. We've got to stop complying with what they're doing. They're just gonna. It won't end. They're gonna take everything eventually if we don't. So
and this is the government you're speaking of, our government and their regulations. And at this stage, there's many cases before the courts that are asking the government to present proof for many things, and the ball is in their court now to respond to the people of South Africa. And I really want to thank you for your courage and for sharing the story with the people of South Africa. Like I say, it's fascinating that they have not put this in the mainstream media, because normally they try and do this. But I think the evidence out there in the world now, and even with the statements from the World Health Organization, makes it difficult for them to justify what the government is currently doing. So they don't really have a foot to stand on. They are now on their own, and we can hold them to account as a government, as we have a right to as citizens.
Absolutely, Des. Yeah. It's important that people do some research on mask wearing, on vaccinations, on everything. Inform yourself. There's so much information out on alternative media.
I always tell people to make up your own
switch your televisions off.
Yes.
Make up your own mind. Don't read the newspapers. Don't look at the television. Be mindful when you're on social media, and make up your own mind. Question, like you say. You always say question everything. It's vital, really. We're going to lose everything if we don't do this. Really,
yes, absolutely.
And it's all around the world, everywhere. Yes. So we all need to start saying no.
Yeah, at the moment, this is about freedom, the freedom of choice, right? And
Yeah.
we should be able to choose to do very basic things to protect ourselves, and a right to fresh air, a right to movement, and many other things. People to gather in to worship if they want to, or whatever the case may be. There's so many things that we've been restricted of that doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense at all, in fact. And even the courts have said that a lot of things don't make sense. That the government says that you can have a full taxi traveling 200 kilometers, but a hairdresser cannot do a single person's hair. That's actually an example the judge used in a ruling. That the regulations don't add up, and that they're coming up with bad regulations, and that they could use alternative means if they believe that there is a danger, to warn people, and then allow the people the freedom to act in their own way to protect their own safety.
If you're so worried about your health and perhaps you might get this China virus or whatever it is, then wear a mask. But allow those that are comfortable with being exposed to not wear a mask. We should be allowed to choose whatever we want. If you're wearing a mask, you're protecting yourself.
Yes, and you have a right to do that.
Besides, yes, and besides, I mean, there's so much literature out there saying that masks are not effective. Even the World Health Organization stated that they're not effective. But it's still being enforced against all these scientific findings. So
yeah, I think
it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
so many things don't make sense.
Yeah, I think there's many things that's happened that's confusing for people, and people are trying to make sense of things. But I really want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story. I will keep the people updated with regards to your court case, and I want the people in the Garden Route, Oscar, to go and support you. You say it's on the 1st of July in the Magistrates Court in George.
Des.
Okay. And I will keep you updated. Maybe we can do a follow-up interview at the time.
Yep, no problem. Everything's going to go well. I've got no real concerns about it. But thank you very much for the support. And then if anybody wants to come along and witness what's going on, a pleasure. It'd be good to
I think it'll
connect
be
with them as well.
Just for the people to connect with you and support you in that instance. And I really want to thank you for coming on. Say hi to your wonderful family, and thanks to everyone that's come onto this live stream. We're not going to do questions right now, but maybe after or closer to the court case, we can do something where after the court case, where people can ask you questions. And then if you want to meet Oscar when we're on our way to the Garden Route, I'm sure we'll have a meeting there at your premises again, if you will allow us, and then the people can get to meet you and you can tell them.
Absolutely. Lovely. Looking forward to it, really.
Thanks so much,
as many
Oscar.
people as we can.
yes, as many people as we can. Okay. Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone, for coming on. Thank you, Oscar, for coming on and sharing this. It's certainly brave what you did. I applaud you for the fact that you stood with your point, and legally there's nothing that you did that was wrong. After I looked at the legislation and the regulations, they don't specify how you wear your mask. It specifies that you wear a mask, and you did that. Yeah. So thank you very much.
It says cover your face. So, yeah.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Thank you, Des.
Okay.
Thanks very much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.